A regular meeting of the City Council was held in person on Thursday, April 13th, 2023 at 7 p.m. for the purpose of transacting any and all business. Notice of this meeting was posted on April 11th, 2023 at 3:13 p.m. This meeting is being recorded and is live on SATV. Councilors absent? None. Council President Stott presided. Councilor Presnewski moved to dispense with the reading of the record of the previous meeting. All those in favor? Matter carries. I now request that everyone please rise to recite the Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilor Hapworth. Councilor Marcillo?
Thank you, President Stott. A moment of personal privilege.
So granted.
Thank you, President. I'd like to take a few minutes before we begin tonight's agenda to acknowledge the pain that we are feeling as a community after a few days of tragedies. I think it's important to take a moment to ground ourselves in the knowledge that we're here to help our residents, to help make their neighborhoods safer, and to advocate for change where needed. Tonight at 8 o'clock, there will be a candlelight vigil in memory of Tammy Lynn Guy, who was tragically killed in a car crash on Easter Sunday. The vigil is being organized by a new advocacy group in Salem called Salem's Safe Walking Advocacy Group, or SWAG. And people are asked to meet at St. Anne's Park on Jefferson Avenue. Members of Tammy's family are scheduled to join the group, which will take time to remember Tammy and to advocate for pedestrian safety on our roads. I know I speak for all of us when I say that our hearts are broken for Tammy's family and friends. On Monday night, a resident was killed by the MBTA train. Again, our hearts are broken for the victim's family and friends. And as well, I extend my sincere concern for our first responders and public safety personnel who have been through a very rough period. I now ask that everyone rise for a moment of silence for contemplation, reflection, or prayer to honor those two Salem residents and their families that loved them so much. Thank you, President.
Thank you, Councilor Marcillo. We now move on to public testimony. Public testimony is not a public hearing or question and answer period, and sign up must occur 30 minutes prior to the meeting. Signing up by phone or email is not accepted anymore, but you may participate in public testimony remotely or in person, signing up using an online form, which is posted in the agenda, or you may sign the roster in the city clerk's office no later than 6:30 p.m. on the date of this meeting. Tonight's public comments, we have one person that has signed up for public comments. Steve Kapantis, you may approach the podium. Please state your name and address for the record and your public comment.
Hello.
Steve Capacci, Wisteria Street,
There you go.
Salem, Mass. I'm good.
You can begin, Mr. Kapantis, or you're just, oh, okay, this is your comment period. Thank you for your public comment, Mr. Kapantis. Appreciate it. Moving on, hearings.
We have held from the last meeting an order from National Grid to install one pole on Bridge Street, pole number 598.
This petition has been withdrawn. Further petitions. Further hearings, I'm sorry.
We're going to skip the next one, that's on the ground.
Is the next, yes.
Okay.
Can I have a motion to take out of order the petitions? Counselor
The
Dominguez,
Hearings, take out of
we will take the petitions out of order.
Motion to take out of order.
Okay, thank you. So we will, Mr. Potter is in transport to chambers, so we will take out of order the hearings and move on to, we'll stay in petitions and go to the next one on page 5. Is there a second? Seconded by Counselor Marcillo. Further hearings.
We have an order from National Grid to install conduits on Osborne Hill Drive.
On the petition to install conduits on Osborne Hill Drive, do we have anyone appearing in favor? Ms. Sabita? Can you please state your name and address for the record? We need to get you a mic, Sabita. Apologies.
We'll get a wireless speaker. I don't know why that is not arcing.
There's one down. What about that counselor's mic? Well, the cord's probably not.
Okay. Sabita Mahaber Shihi, representing National Grid, 44 River Street, Beverly, Massachusetts. This is to extend a phase to balance out the feeder at this location for this development.
Thank you. Is there anyone in the public appearing to speak on this matter in favor? If you're on Zoom and wish to speak, please use the raise hand function. Is there anyone appearing in opposition? If you're on Zoom, please use the raise hand function and we will allow you to speak. Okay. Any comments from the council? Questions? Councillor McLean?
Thank you, Council President. I will move to close the public hearing.
Councillor McLean moves to close the public hearing. All those in favor? Hearing is closed. Councillor McLean?
I further move that this be granted.
Councillor McLean moves that these be granted. Any further discussion? Councillor Marcillo?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to add a few conditions that were sent in from the engineering department. And I believe that these are pretty standard, but I think that they just wanted them said out loud and so that everyone understands the conditions. The contractor must mark out the proposed location for this conduit and contact DigSafe prior to submitting a street opening permit application to engineering to perform the work. The permit application must be submitted a minimum of 7 days prior to the proposed start of work date, and the engineering department will review the proposed conduit location in the field prior to issuing the permit. And all vaults and other structures to be installed within the public right-of-way, including sidewalks, shall be AASHTO H2O rated. There's probably a better way to say that, but I don't know what it is. Thank you.
Any further comments, questions? On the matter that this petition, this be granted with those conditions stated by Councillor Marcillo. All those in favor? All those opposed? Petition is granted. Here, I keep saying it wrong. Further hearings.
We have an order from National Grid to install conduits on Grove Street.
To install conduits on Grove Street from National Grid. All those in favor, please state your name and address for the record. Oh, sorry. Thank you. Anyone else appearing in favor? Anyone appearing in opposition? If you're on Zoom, please use the raise hand function. If you're appearing in opposition. Okay. Sabita, I have a few conditions for you for this one as well, similar to the previous. So the contractor must submit a street opening permit application to engineering prior to the work. The application must be submitted a minimum of 7 days prior to the proposed start of the work date, including a traffic management plan. All vaults and other structures to be installed within the public right-of-way shall be to AASH2O rated, and contractors need to replace full concrete panels after the work is complete. Scoring pattern of concrete should match existing concrete. I'm also adding an additional condition onto this one. There are 2 poles numbered 555 in this area. You can see one of them on the plan that was permitted or submitted. One of them was an old pole that was supposed to be removed and has not been removed. So this work cannot begin until that pole that should be removed is removed. I was told that that was a National Grid pole. Okay, so the work can't continue until that pole is removed. That's the condition. Because that pole is stopping other work that we need to have done. Yeah, right. Yeah, well, if it will delay your work, you might reach out again. It can't be done though so that will be the condition that the pole needs to be removed. Yeah, I will follow up with them and we can definitely do a joint effort there. Yeah, if you want to coordinate if you want to ask, we can definitely get that ball rolling too. My understanding is they have, but the more, the better. Any further comments or questions? Councilor Marcillo?
Thank you, President. I move to close the public hearing.
Councilor Marcillo moves to close the public hearing. All those in favor? Hearing is closed. Councilor Marcillo?
And I move that this be granted with the conditions that were
Councilor
stated.
Marcillo moves that these be granted with the conditions, including the work and the double utility JO pole 555 removal. All those in favor? Any opposed? Matter carries. Further hearings.
We have an order from National Grid and Verizon to install 1 jointly owned pole and conduits on Grove Street.
Please state your name and address for the record. Appearing in favor? Any members of the public appearing in favor or in opposition? You can use the raise hand function on Zoom. No one? Okay, I will say same exact conditions as the one before. So the street opening permit application, it must be submitted 7 days ahead. The public right-of-way work, traffic management plan, concrete panels replaced, and the utility pole 555 removed. Any further comments or questions from the council? Councilor Marcillo.
Thank you, President. I move to close the public hearing.
Councilor Marcillo moves to close the public hearing. All those in favor? All those opposed? Hearing is closed. Councilor Marcillo?
Thank you, President. I move that this be granted with the conditions as listed.
Thank you. On the motion for this to be granted with the conditions as listed, all those in favor? Any opposed? Matter carries. Thank you, Sabita. Further hearings.
We have an order from Comcast to install conduits on Norman Street.
For those appearing in favor, please state your name and address for the record.
Comcast, 9 Road, Woburn, Mass. I'd like to speak in favor of the Comcast petition for Norman Street, place a 3x3 meter pole over the existing conduit and 48 feet of conduit to provide service to the post office
Thank you. If there are any members of the public appearing in favor, if you're on Zoom, you can use the raise hand function. If there are any members of the public appearing in opposition and you are on Zoom, you can use the raise hand function to speak. Comments from the council? Councilor Watson-Felt.
Thank you, President Stott. There are similar conditions for this from the engineering department that I'm going to read aloud. The contractor must submit a street opening permit application to engineering prior to the performing the work. This application must be submitted at a minimum of 7 days prior to the proposed start of work date and shall include a traffic management plan. All vaults and other structures to be installed within public right-of-way, including sidewalks, shall be AASHTO H20 rated. Contractor will need to replace full concrete panels after work is complete. Scoring pattern of concrete should match existing concrete sidewalk. And I will add an additional comment that there is an extra emphasis and some concern at the city about the traffic management plan. It will need to be robust. This work will cut perpendicular across Norman. It will have to be done carefully and in phases, which I'm sure our visitor from Comcast tonight is well aware. But I did want to make sure that the public hears that the engineering department is all over it and understands that the impact of this work. Also that they are recommending it be granted as long as that traffic management plan and all other conditions are met. Thank you.
Any further comments or questions from the council? Councilor Watson-Felt?
Thank you, President Stott. I move that the public hearing be closed.
Councilor Watson-Felt moves that the public hearing be closed. All those in favor? Any opposed? Hearing is closed. Councilor Watson-Felt?
Thank you. I further move that this be granted with the outlined conditions.
Councilor Watson-Felt moves that these be granted with the outlined conditions. All those in favor? Any opposed? Matter is granted. Thank you.
You want to go to Amanda, the CDBG? Page 12.
Do we want? Councilor Marcillo?
I move that we go out of order to page 12.
Councilor Marcillo moves that we go out of order to page 12, seconded by Councilor Varela. Communications from the mayor.
We have an order that the City Council hereby approves the submittal of the City of Salem's application for federal assistance to the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development for Community Development Block Grant Funds for the period of July 1st, 2023 through June 30th, 2024, in the amount determined by HUD's formula entitlement allocation of $1,059,113.
Councilor McLean?
Thank you, Council President. I will move for a suspension of the rules so that we can allow our city planner, Amanda Chiancola, to come up and answer any questions people may have about this application.
Councilor McLean moves for suspension of the rules. Any objection? No objection. Ms. Amanda Chiancola, thank you for joining us this evening. Oh, she needs a mic.
Conrad, can you share your mic? Or
I don't.
Okay. Thank you. This is an application for our Community Development Block Grant Funds. It's an annual application we need to submit to HUD. The entitlement application is $1,059,113, and we have a projected $110,000 in program income that we expect. So this is just the application for the funds, and then there will be a public hearing next Thursday for the action plan, which is this document here. I'd encourage anyone who's interested in how the funds are proposed to be spent to take a look at the action plan and provide comments. That's what the meeting next week is for. This order is just to submit the actual application for the funding.
Councilor Watson-Felt?
Thank you. Ms. Chiancola, could you specify the date and time of that meeting next week, please?
Yes, I can. Could I check one moment? It's Thursday, April 20th, and it is at, thank you, 6 p.m. via Zoom. And the link is posted on the city calendar.
Thank you, Amanda. Is that action plan that you showed us available electronically somewhere?
Yes, the action plan is available on the city website and under studies and reports. It's also on the advertisement page under legal ads. Feel free to contact me if you can't find it on the website. I'm happy to share it. And the public comment period is open until May 1st.
Any further comments or questions from the council? Councilor McLean?
Thank you, Council President. Maintaining suspension of the rules, I'll move for adoption by roll call vote.
Councilor McLean moves for adoption for roll call vote. Any further discussion? Thank you, Amanda. Madam City Clerk, whenever you're ready.
Council Watson-Felt,
Yes.
Council Varela,
Yes.
Council Prosnewski,
Yes.
Council Marcello,
Yes.
Council Merkel,
Yes.
Council McLean,
Yes.
Council Hatworth,
Yes.
Council Dominguez,
Yes.
Council Cohen,
Yes.
and Council Stott.
Yes. Thank you. On the City of Salem's application for federal assistance to HUD for CDBG funds for the period of July 1st, 2023 to June 30th, 2024 in the amount of $1,059,113. $1,059,113. 10 members voting, all in the affirmative. Matter carries. Councilor Marcillo. Thank you, Amanda.
Thank you, President. I move that we now go back to page 4 to close out the public hearings.
Councilor Marcillo moves that we go back to page 4. Is there a second? Seconded by everyone. Thank you. And sorry, I'm going back. Oh, it's over here. Hearings.
We have an order, we have a request from On the Grind Cafe, 36 Jefferson Ave, for extended hours to open from 5 a.m. to 7 p.m.
For the matter of the Grind Cafe at 36 Jefferson Ave for extended hours, all those appearing in favor, please state your name and address for the record, and I believe you're the applicant, so you can provide us some context, please.
My name's Dave Potter. I live at 11 Linden Ave, Swampscott, but I'm in Salem more so often. I think I live here, so doing a lot of projects here. I love Salem, and I have a lot of stuff invested here, and we're opening up this this cafe.
Anybody in Zoom, if you're appearing in favor, you can use your raise hand function. And if you're appearing in opposition, you can use your raise hand function in Zoom, and we will call on you. Okay. Comments and questions from the council? Councilor Marcillo?
Thank you, President Stott. Thank you. I can't wait for this to open. It's not far from my house, so.
Me neither.
I just wanted to point out a few things that I know you're aware of, but there is a residence. It's 2 doors down. Please be conscious of that fact with the opening at 5 in the morning. And also, that particular area has a lot of driveways. I'm assuming that you have some parking on the side of the building there?
We do.
Okay. I'm also going to ask that you keep your eye open in that front area, people coming and going on both sides of the building, parking close to the sidewalk but not on the sidewalk, because it is a pathway to schools. So I just want to make sure that, and I know you know this, but I have to speak up for the people that do live on Jefferson Avenue in that area, and they do live there. It's not all businesses, so.
Sure.
But other than that, can't wait for you to be open.
All right, thank you.
Any further comments from the council? Questions? Will you be serving cold brew? That's my question. Good.
You good?
Okay. Councilor Marcillo?
Thank you, Madam President. I move that we close the public hearing.
Counselor Marcillo moves that we close the public hearing. All those in favor? Any opposed? Hearing is closed. Counselor Marcillo?
Thank you, and I move that this be granted.
Counselor Marcillo moves that this be granted. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? This is granted.
Thank you very much.
Congrats.
Hope to see you all there.
Yes. And thank you for coming in. We appreciate it. We're like half it. Any motions to move back to page 9, appointments, Counselor Marcillo?
Thank you, President Stott. I move that we now return to page 9.
Appointments and reappointments.
With the mayor's appointment of the following to serve on various boards and commissions with their term to expire.
Counselor Presnowski.
I move that these be held under the rules.
Counselor Presnowski moves that these be held under the rules. All those in favor? Any opposed? Matter is held. Further reappointments and appointments.
We have the mayor's reappointment of Charles Barton to serve on the City of Salem's Board of Registers of Voters with a term to expire March 1st, 2026.
Counselor Presnowski.
Also held under the rules.
Counselor Presnowski moves that this is held under the rules. All those in favor? Any opposed? Matter carries. Further appointments and reappointments.
With the mayor's reappointment of Josh Troyer to serve on the City of Salem's Planning Board with a term to expire May 24th, 2028.
Counselor Presnowski.
Also that this appointment be held under the rules.
Counselor Presnowski moves that this be held under the rules. All those in favor? Any opposed? Matter carries. Further appointments and reappointments.
With the mayor's appointment of the following to serve on the Recycling Committee for informational purposes only.
Counselor Presnowski.
Move that these be received and filed.
Counselor Presnowski moves that these be received and filed. All those in favor? All those opposed? Matter carries. Further appointments and reappointments.
With the mayor's appointment of Lisa Gray Duffy of 112 Columbus Ave to serve on the Salem's Cultural Council with a term to expire April 13th, 2026.
Counselor Presnowski.
Move that this also be received and filed.
Counselor Presnowski moves that this is received and filed. All those in favor? Any opposed? Matter carries. Further appointments and reappointments.
With the mayor's reappointment of Dominic Panico of 10 Buffum Street, Salem, to serve as a constable with a term to expire April 13th, 2026.
Counselor Presnowski.
Move that this be received and filed.
Counselor Presnowski moves that this be received and filed. All those in favor? Any opposed? Matter is received and filed. I just want to note we did just appoint or receive and file for the 5 members on the recycling committee. I'd like to comment that there is the Great Salem Cleanup, I believe it is called, on the weekend of the 29th. Sign up for it is this Friday. Did I say that right date wrong, Councilor Cohen?
Thank you, President. It is Sunday, April 23rd from 10 to 12, and there are 12 sites, one in every ward, and people have until tomorrow to register for whichever site they want to participate in, and I think we have over 100 people registered so far.
Awesome. It's going to be a great time. Everyone should come. Thank you. Communications from the mayor.
We've been ordered that the sum of $4,000 is hereby appropriated in the Retirement Stabilization Fund sick leave buyback account to be expended for the sick leave buybacks to be paid out for active employees pursuant to collective bargaining agreements with various unions.
Councilor McLean.
Thank you, Council President. I move for suspension of the rules.
Councilor McLean moves for suspension of the rules. Any objection? No objection. Councilor McLean.
Thank you. I further move for adoption.
Councilor McLean moves for adoption. Under discussion.
Thank you. This is a true buyback, so in some situations where these come before us, we have corrections that are being instituted for the settlement of contracts. In this case, it is simply a standard that's in place, and employees are exercising their right to buy back some of their time.
Any further discussion? On the motion for $4,000 appropriated in the Retirement Stabilization Fund. All those in favor? Any opposed? Matter carries. Further communications from the mayor.
We have an order per Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 64, which allows municipalities to pay for prior fiscal year invoices used in current fiscal year appropriations. We need 2/3 vote to request the sum of $561.60 for an outstanding fiscal year 2020, 20 invoice to be paid from the fiscal year 23 from the police department budget.
Counselor McLean.
Thank you, Council President. I will further move for suspension of the rules.
Counselor McLean moves for suspension of the rules. Any objection? No objection. Counselor McLean.
I move for adoption by roll call vote.
Counselor McLean moves for adoption by roll call vote. Under discussion.
Thank you. I will channel the spirit of the prior ANF chair and our current interim Mayor Bob, and say that it is frustrating to see invoices like this appear before us for paying out obligations from prior years, in this case several years ago. There is an amendment that needs to be made with thanks to the Ward 3 counselor. It was noticed that a portion of the invoice had already been paid. And so the amount that we need to approve in order to settle our obligation is less $211.60, making the new amount $350 to be paid off. So I'm going to move that we amend the amount and that we adopt by roll call vote a payment in the amount of $350.
Counselor Cohen? Oh, you second. Okay. So the motion, the order is amended for the total of $350 even? No change? Okay. Any further discussion? Good catch. On the motion that we pay per Mass General Law, which is $350 for the outstanding fiscal year 2020 invoice, we will move for adoption by roll call vote. Madam City Clerk?
Counselor Watson-Felt,
Yes.
Counselor Varela,
Yes.
Counselor Prosnewski,
Yes.
Counselor Masillo,
Yes.
Counselor Merkel,
Yes.
Counselor McLean,
Yes.
Counselor Hapworth,
Yes.
Counselor Dominguez,
Yes.
Counselor Cohen,
Yes.
and Counselor Stott.
Yes. Thank you. Upon the question of Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 64, pay prior fiscal year invoice with current fiscal year appropriations, Police Department for Bolger Animal Hospital bill for amended to $350. 10 members voting, all in the affirmative. Matter carries. Mayor's informational page is none. Motions, orders, and resolutions. Councilor Dominguez.
Thank you, President Stott. City of Salem, April 13, City Council order that the City Council and School Committee accept nomination for the vacancy of school committee member due to the resignation of James Fleming as of April 7, 2023. Those interested in being nominated must be registered voter in Salem and send a letter of interest or resume, which must be filed in the city clerk office by Monday, May 1st, 2023 by 12 p.m. and that a joint convention of the city council and school committee be held on the city council chamber in person on Thursday, May 4, 2023 at 6 p.m. for the purpose of electing a school committee member to fill the vacancy. And I move for adoption.
Councilor Dominguez moves for adoption. Under discussion?
Thank you. Yes, this is simply a way of filling this vacancy left by our great James Fleming, who resigned, as stated on April 7. And the rules are there already clear. Anyone interested on applying need to follow the rules just before May 23rd by 12 p.m., sending a resume or a letter to the city clerk office to be taken into consideration. We encourage everybody who are interested to send the resume to city clerk.
Amending the date? Okay. Someone else? Councilor Marcillo?
Thank you, President. We have since then amended the date so that the resumes must be in the office by April 28th at noon. And the meeting will be held on May 1st at 6 p.m. And that's a Monday.
Thank you. So I will just repeat that. thank yous to the body here and to the school committee body for working with us to find a joint convention date. It is quite difficult to get that many people in a room together, quorums and all. And also a sincere thanks to Mr. Fleming for his service on the school committee for a long time, and also a ward counselor as well. So he sat in these seats here as well. So again, just to reiterate those dates, applications for those interested to fill the vacancy are due to the clerk's office April 28th, which is a Friday, by noon. You can hand deliver them to her office in City Hall on the first floor. You can also send them via email to isimons@salem.com. You can also send them to any of us, and we will make sure Eileen gets them. Just make sure they are submitted by April 28th at noon. The joint convention will then be the following week, Monday, May 1st at 6 p.m. Any further comments? Councilor Marcillo?
Thank you, President. In light of the number of years that Mr. Fleming has served as an elected representative, both in the city council and on the school committee, I would request that we send the city seal to him as a token of appreciation for all of his years of work.
Thank you. Councilor Dominguez?
I wanted to second that, and I also wanted to say that we really appreciate Mr. Fleming's service for so many years in different capacity. We know that he's been serving the city of Salem as a school committee, but also as a ward councilor for many, many years. So very appreciated the way that he's been serving our city. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Presnewski?
Just want to also acknowledge the fact that Mr. Fleming was a Vietnam veteran, served his country in Vietnam, and for that we should be tipping our hats also and including that in the citation. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments? Okay, on the motion to adopt, to accept the nominations by Friday, April 28th at noon, and for the joint convention in council chambers for Monday, May 1st at 6 p.m. All those in favor? Any opposed? Matter carries. We will see you all May 1st. Further motions, orders, and resolutions. Councilor Marcillo.
Thank you, President Stott. Ordered that the Traffic and Parking Department provide to the City Council a list of all traffic lights in Salem under the jurisdiction of the City of Salem that do not currently prohibit right on red. Additionally, that the Traffic and Parking Department provide the cost of the creation of appropriate signage to prohibit right on red. These items are requested by the May 25th meeting, and I move for adoption.
Councilor Marcillo moves for adoption. Under discussion. Councilor Marcillo?
Thank you, President. Everybody sit back because this is a long one. First, I want to start by saying that this was not started because of the recent accidents, although that certainly it adds to the necessity. But I will also say that we do not know the cause of the accident, and I want to make that very clear, that there is no information on the cause of the accident on Jefferson Avenue. But this is an issue that I've been contemplating for some time now. I'm a regular walker primarily around the downtown, and I have become increasingly frustrated by the number of cars that are acting beyond boldly. I think that the best thing you can do is stand in Riley Plaza and you will see everything that I'm about to list right now. Cars do not stop at red lights before turning. They slip right through, and this, I will say, is every vehicle, including police cars. They turn on red while pedestrian crosswalk lights are activated. Often, the cars thread the needle, passing between those who are trying to cross the street. When cars are thankfully stopped at a red light, often to let pedestrians cross, the cars behind them will lean on their horns, trying to get them to make that turn on red, even though it's not safe to do so. And they will go beyond leaning on their horns. You will hear them yelling and making a lot of noise just because two cars ahead of them is not turning when they think that you should. Cars are also pushing into congested intersections just to get ahead when there's nowhere to go. And you can see this all the time in October at Riley Plaza. Cars turning from Derby Street onto Washington Street. There's nowhere to go. No one is going anywhere, but they will continue to make their right-hand turn and try to jam their car in. It's frustrating for pedestrians who do not feel safe in crosswalks. And for the number of pedestrian accidents that through the years we've had in Salem, and the first thing people ask is, were they in a crosswalk? Well, I can say that that hardly matters these days because the crosswalk could be lit. It could say that it's okay and safe to cross. There's even a buzzer in some locations to get the attention of drivers. It doesn't work. They will still try to go through. The current habits and actions of drivers in Salem and beyond has gotten frustratingly unsafe. There's a general lack of respect for other drivers, for pedestrians, and for cyclists, and for those who live in the neighborhoods. Speeding is rampant. Distracted driving is everywhere. Just stand by any road and observe the number of drivers with cell phones in their hands or with their head down looking at a phone. Drivers are impatient, swerving around stopped cars, rolling through red lights, taking left turns on red. Drivers become anxious approaching certain intersections in Salem because they know that other drivers are super aggressive. The right on red started for most states during the oil embargo of the 1970s as what was thought to be a fuel conservation measure, but at what cost? An analysis released in March by the Governor's Highway Safety Association found that in the United States, deaths of people killed by cars while walking rose an estimated 18% between the years 2019 and 2022. In 2021, an estimated 7,485 pedestrians were struck and killed by drivers, the largest number in 4 decades. And 2021 is the most recent full year of statistics. While it's difficult to study the effect of disallowing right on red because its use is so widespread, studies are beginning to show that limiting the practice can reduce crashes and close calls, and that drivers do adjust. Another side effect found was when sections of cities disallow a right on red, cars are less likely to block or encroach on crosswalks, which is another pet peeve of mine when cars stop in a crosswalk. It's unbelievable. I don't know how much redder or more painted in bricks we can make these things. People don't care. This order is a transparent start to a larger conversation. I would not normally put in an order to ask for data, but I want everyone to be aware of the work that we are embarking on. I also want to be transparent about the cost of signage, the enforcement, and the public education campaign that would be necessary if we choose to move forward with a prohibition of red on red for a neighborhood, the downtown area, or for the whole city. I anticipate several public meetings to discuss the pros and cons before any decisions are made. And I'm clear-minded enough that this alone will not magically make pedestrians completely safe. But it's a start on the pathway of creating safer streets for everyone who use them, pedestrians, cyclists, and drivers. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Councillor Watson-Felt?
Thank you, President Stott. I would like to thank Councilor Marcillo for bringing this forward. I am a big supporter of this order. And I just wanted to comment just additionally that I think that we as a body are seeing a lot more of these conversations come up. It's clear that across the city of Salem, across all wards, there are increasing conversations around both driver and pedestrian safety and people who maneuver our streets in all kinds of ways. And I would, I think, as I've said here on the floor before, almost all of this, unfortunately, comes down to enforcement, which is a huge burden on our enforcing agents. But that is part of why Councilor Varela and I have been working on this home rule petition to include changing the law here in Salem potentially to use red light violations as a digital enforcing agent as well. Because I think if we're going to increase this awareness and have these conversations and potentially increase signage and, continue with our painting and continue with our public awareness campaigns and continuing to talk about it here despite increasing injuries in Salem. I think we have to help on the enforcement side as well. So I'm really appreciative that this will tie so nicely, hopefully, into the future conversations we have about that home rule petition. Thanks.
Councillor Hepworth?
Thank you, President Stott. I also want to thank Councilor Morsillo for bringing this forward. We had a conversation last year around Vision Zero, and one of the tenets of Vision Zero is that we never balance safety concerns for efficiency. And in cities across America, efficiency and safety are constantly balanced, and it sounds like, looking at that data at least, that the right on red is a balancing of those two that we should be seriously looking at. So I thank her for bringing that forward.
Councillor Presnowski?
Thank you, Madam President. I also agree with Ms. Morsillo about the concerns with the traffic and the safety in this city. It's one of the #1 priorities that whenever there's a poll done in the city, it's always about traffic and pedestrian safety. I do have some concerns that before we start asking the traffic and parking department to start producing signs and costs and things like that, that we get into a deeper discussion on it, and there are some legal avenues that would have to be addressed. Probably the biggest one is that the federal government has enacted an energy policy, and it's the Energy and Conservation Act back in 2022, which basically says that to increase domestic energy and supplies and availability, and to restrain demand to prepare for energy emergencies and other purposes, there is a subsection over here, Section 5, which according to the federal government, the federal rules, the federal government tells us that any federal assistance under this part shall include subsection 5, and it says, a traffic law or regulation which, to the maximum extent practicable, consistent with safety permits, and the operator of a motor vehicle to turn such vehicle right on red after stopping, and to turn such vehicle left on a one-way street and onto a one-way street at a red light after stopping. Basically, what they're saying is that they provide us with money for their energy conservation because every state in this country shall adopt a right on red. So that's a legal hurdle that we have to address. The energy part, I mean, until we get all electric vehicles, then maybe the government will kind of kick back a little bit on their emission standards and maybe help resolve this issue. But the emissions alone from the vehicles that are stopped at a red light, I'm not a scientist. I can't tell you how many pounds of carbon are going to be emitted from vehicles that are stopped at red lights and have to be stopped at red lights from that. And I'm also not going to speak at this point about the effect it's going to have on the movement of traffic in this city, which is another big issue. And we all know traffic doesn't move well in this city now. If we take all right on reds away from people in this city, my belief is it's just going to cause more congestion and frustration. Never mind the emissions, and never mind the fact that we're going against a federal law. So I would like to see this further conversation on this, and maybe brought into the OLA committee so that we can get some clarification from our legal department whether we have the authority to overstep the federal government and do this as a city, and what kind of impact it would have if we did take all the rights away from Salem, from the traffic and parking, and also from the police department. And I'm not sure whether we can get an expert on emissions to say how much more pollution we're going to have in the air because cars are waiting at red lights when they don't have to be. So I'm just asking that this be put into committee.
Sure. Just for confirmation of what the order is, the order currently, I don't believe it's been amended, is that the Traffic and Parking Department provide a list of traffic lights in Salem that do not currently prohibit right on red.
Correct.
Councillor McLean?
Thank you, Council President. I too have some concerns about the shape of this order. I think I appreciate it as a starting point for conversation, and I appreciate that framing of it, but I do think that there is, I'm left wanting a little bit in a situation where we are asking the traffic and parking department to deliver us data, both because I think there is other data that's relevant. I do think it's relevant whether people are hit or not hit in crosswalks. I do think that matters. I think the proximate causes of what leads to accidents is important. I don't think we should take large-scale actions that are meant to address pedestrian safety if we don't actually understand the causes of the accidents. So I think data like that needs to be paired with the data that we're requesting. And I also think I would appreciate a framework, knowing that there'll be further discussions to come, but I would appreciate a framework which involves us explicitly collaborating, creating a hearing structure where the traffic and parking department is with us in reviewing this versus delivering data to us. We had some recent conversations with our city electrician discussing, controlled signals at intersections, and one of the things we really asked was, are you sharing this data with the police department? Are you sharing this data with traffic and parking? We don't want you making this decision in a vacuum. And we have to operate by the same standard, I think. I think we need to make sure that we're operating in a fashion that's collaborative and having a joint discussion on something like this, not saying, give me the information and I'll make some choices. So I do think this is important data to have, and I do think it's a worthwhile starting point, but this feels like starting with a conclusion in mind to me. And I tend to agree with Councilor Prozniewski that, there are things that contribute to the behavior of drivers and the aggression that goes on around here, and the wide-scale congestion in Salem is one of those things. It's really, really hard to get around this city, and people do drive aggressively, and part of that is part of what's going on with the sort of anxiety level that's sort of rising nationally, which is, I think, why you're seeing a national problem around traffic safety. But our city is legitimately hard to drive through, and I think we need to be really careful about shutting down what might be ways to relieve some of that pressure with a broad brush without being really careful about it.
Councillor Merkel and then Councillor Marcillo.
Thank you, President Stott, and I appreciate all the comments, and I look forward to the further discussions. And in regards to what is in front of us tonight to request this data, I'd like to support the points made by Councilor Marcillo that there, of course, is not, one answer to safety for public safety and pedestrian safety, but we have to try to use all the ideas and actions we can take. Any that will help is a step in the right direction. So of course it's not going. We're not going to have any data. This is going to solve all the safety issues, but I always like the approach of doing everything we can, because this is a crisis. We're getting too many reports and notifications of injuries. And also, I just want to support all the points made. I see all of that every day, just everything that was said with the cars park in the crosswalks. They don't stop to look. The really good point that everybody honks their horns behind them. It just seems to cause a lot of hostility. They can't see there's a pedestrian there, the third car back, and they're beeping. Everybody is rolling up through the crosswalks trying to see. So I just wanted to support the gathering of this data and trying to take any step forward we can. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Marcillo?
Thank you, President Stott. I will go back to one of the final paragraphs that I read. This order is a transparent start to a larger conversation. It was a place to start to collect data. Of course, we need a discussion with the police department, including data on accidents that we're seeing that are related to this kind of abuse of red on red. I will also say that it pains me to hear fellow councilors prioritizing car throughput over the safety of pedestrians, especially in a downtown area. I said and I explained that I walk all over this city and I do not feel safe even in a crosswalk. And I really find it amazing that the first comments on this, on a motion to collect data, which will then go into either OLA or the committee of the whole to start a discussion, is met with, but what about the cars? Like, I just don't even know how to explain how frustrating this is for me to hear. I will also point out that the entirety of New York City does not allow right on red anywhere, anywhere. There are communities all over the United States that are setting up areas in their municipalities that are not allowing right on red. So there are ways to do it. We currently have some traffic lights that do not allow right on red. We are still getting federal funds. I'm also not saying that this is going to happen. It needs a discussion. We need to understand not only the effects, but the cost, because that is important for us as counselors when we pass ordinances to know if we pass it, what's the cost, and what departments are involved in this, including public safety, including traffic and parking, including engineering and the lighting department, the electrical department. There's a lot that goes on here. I am fully aware of that. This is a start to the conversation. With that said, there's a motion just to accept this, to ask for the data. I have already spoken with Mr. Kucharski. He understands the data that I'm looking for to begin this discussion. Thank you.
Councillor Watson-Felt?
Thank you, President Stott. I second everything that Councilor Marcello just said, and I will also add that it seems to me we could do this one of two ways, right? We could take the at-large counselor suggestion and send it to OLA before we ask for data. And then I envision us sitting around going, well, it's really hard to have this conversation without some data, right? So the flip side would be, let's get the data. Maybe we ask for additional information in advance. Maybe we add a friendly amendment to increase the asks to include incidents that are related to pedestrian striking incidents that are related to this behavior. We can do that. But I absolutely see no problem whatsoever in gathering data in order to have an informed conversation when this body comes back together. Thank you.
Councillor Presnowski?
I understand the importance of this. It's just the way that it's being done by asking for the data. Who's going to ask for the data, and how are they going to get that data? We have hundreds of red lights in Salem. So somebody is going to have to go out there and take a look at each and every one of those lights and make a decision on, and then give a list of which ones are allowed right on red, which cities and towns have the right to do, and which ones are not. That's a lot of effort. Also, the cost of the creation of appropriate signage for every red light in the city, okay, that could probably be done if David Kucharski has the manpower to do that. The other part of it is if we adopted no right on red on every red light in the city, then we would have to change the ordinances to reflect the enforcement ability of that. Every ordinance would have to be changed so that the police could enforce that at that particular intersection. All I'm saying, and I understand the importance of it 100%. This city is not only hard to drive in, it is difficult to walk in. And people that are walking on the crosswalks, they have to be more cautious than in maybe some other rural areas. Hands down. There's also responsibility of the pedestrians to be able to be walking a little bit more carefully too, but some of the data may show that. All I'm saying is that I just think it needs further discussion, and that sets aside the argument of whether or not we're going to be losing federal funds because we're not complying with. That was just something I wanted to see, get an opinion from our legal staff. So I would just like to see more discussion on this, that's all.
Sounds like there will be. Councillor McLean?
Thank you, Council President. I just want to take a moment to sort of interrogate this pedestrian versus car framework that I think I hear in the discussion, that I've heard in some other discussions that we've had around pedestrian safety in our city. And I think it's a real point of tension when we try to have conversations around this, around sort of who gets the priority, the pedestrians or the vehicles. And I think that's a little bit of a false dichotomy. I mean, speaking only for myself, I live, work, drive, and walk in this city. I walk around the downtown all day because I work there. I take meetings in various places. I drive in and out on a daily basis. I come down here with my children. And I think that we have to find a way to honor both of the needs. We can't achieve pedestrian safety if we pretend to ignore the behavior of drivers. We just won't be able to achieve it. And what we are asking of drivers in terms of being more aware of pedestrian behavior and promoting their safety has to move in both directions for it to work. And as we talk about prohibitions, we need to be talking just as frequently and aggressively about how we provide solutions for movement, right? Making a comparison to New York City, New York City has one of the most robust mass transit systems in the world. That's why they're able to move people around, and everybody knows quite well that attempting to drive in that city is damn near impossible in the downtown. So we, I think, need to try to change the framing of our conversation. I think it's not productive for us to have conversations that are, well, you're choosing the cars over the safety of people, or you're choosing people who aren't even using the bike lanes over our cars. Like that I think is leading to a level of tension that is not helping us move the ball forward. I think we've got to be realistic and find a balancing act and understand that considering the behavior of cars and the need of people to use their vehicles in what is still a vehicle-driven society at the moment is important. We have to reckon with that in order to actually achieve safety for our pedestrians.
Councillor Cohen?
Thank you, President Stott. I do feel that we've been a collaborative body, and I do believe that personally that, it's always good to start with pedestrian safety because they have a disadvantage. Councilor Watson-Felt mentioned that all our wards are experiencing issues. The police department has had meetings expressing how, and I know Councilor Hapworth had a meeting talking about accidents and the increased frequency. And I'm somewhat ignorant myself. I'll give you an example. Council President called me to find out if the pedestrian signal at Riley Plaza crossing New Derby Street was a problem and was in my ward, and I found that it was, and it was stuck on 20 seconds. And so there were people, I went down and viewed it, and there were people who were obviously attempting to cross the street at the same time where people were going 40, 50 miles an hour. Mr. Kapanis, who was here earlier, notified me that when you go, Lafayette Park is a really dangerous intersection because it's not geometric. People do exactly what Councilor Marcillo said. When they're trying to take a left onto Washington Street, they do sit, when the light is red. And when they were turning, and this is something I was ignorant about, turning onto Washington Street at the exact same time that the crossing signal notified people that they could cross. And Councilor Prasnewski and I did a field trip with Director Kucharski and Lieutenant Tucker. We went to a number of places, including that place, and we did get the signal delayed. Ironically, at the corner of Porter Street and Lafayette, which is really at that same intersection, there's a person who is blind who lives on Porter Street who walks every day to work at Shetland Park. And we walked together, he with his walking stick. And I thought the signal was working because, this is my ignorance speaking, the signal looked like it was working because it was counting down the numbers, okay? However, he pointed out that he couldn't hear the signal because they also have an audio version and got that fixed. So I do want to say this. I do feel like, personally, I serve now as the liaison to the Commission on Disabilities, as Councilor Stott did before me. I've been going to meetings there for 8 years. There's a lot of discussion there about people who have mobility challenges and how they negotiate everywhere, not just downtown. So I do feel like, you know, we all have our opinions. You know, my opinion is if we start with pedestrians, we'll be in a better place. You know, the complete streets is something that we really need to get closer to. But I'm not personally opposed to having this sent to a committee of the whole, let's say, because I think we're all got, you know, reason to want to get to a better place. And it doesn't have to be before the data comes back. You know, I did talk to Councilor Marcillo today, and she said she had already talked to, you know, Director Kucharski, and I do think he's very diligent. But as Councilor McLean said, you know, and Councilor, you know, Prasnitsky has concerns about the legalities, but as Councilor McLean said, there may be some other entities that we could involve, including some of the, you know, residents who have kind of taken it upon their own to form committees and take the initiative. And that's just my perspective. I have to say that too many times I have driven on a street like Congress Street or some other street, and I know there's a crosswalk, but I didn't see the person in the crosswalk. And I really, 100% of the time, if I've stopped short or accidentally get too far into it, I feel awful because I feel like, you know, my small car could have, you know, done something, and I just need to be more, just me personally, more diligent. So unfortunately, I can't physically walk as much, so I do drive around a lot, but I've become much more aware of myself and other, you know, potential issues, you know, just from my thing, and I'm trying as hard as I can to be cognizant of the surroundings. And I think it's just, there's too many people who probably aren't, you know, not even thinking about that, as Councilor Marcillo said, and I do respect all the stuff that she brought up because I think we've all experienced those wherever our situation is. And I just want to express my views on that.
Any further comments? Councillor Hepworth?
I'll be quick. I know we have a lot more conversation to have around this, and I think every once in a while one of these issues pops up that allows us to all pick at some sort of an issue that has been irritating us, and I think this is one of them. And I just hope that we're framing this conversation around an idea that pedestrians aren't asking for more efficiency. We're not asking to get anywhere faster. We're just asking not to die as we're getting there. And I think that very basic thought, there's only one thing that's killing pedestrians for the most part on the streets, and it's vehicles. And I think any decision we make is ultimately going to be at the expense of some efficiency. I think we have to have that understanding. It's not cars versus pedestrians, but it's ultimately going to be the decision that we make is going to sacrifice some efficiency for the safety of us and our families as we walk around the city. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'd just like to remind that the order in front of us this evening, I don't think it's been amended, is that the Traffic and Parking Department provide to the City Council a list of all traffic lights in Salem under the jurisdiction of the City of Salem that do not currently prohibit right on red. Additionally, the Traffic and Parking Department provide the cost of the creation of appropriate signage to prohibit right on red. These items are requested by the May 25th meeting. Were there no amendments, correct? No amendments. On the motion for adoption for the order for the data request, all those in favor? All those opposed? Matter carries. Further motions, orders, and resolutions. Councillor McLean.
Thank you, Council President. That the monthly financial reports dated December 2022, January 2023, and February 2023 be received and filed. And I move that they be received and filed.
On the motion for adoption, any discussion?
No discussion.
On the motion to adopt the monthly financial reports dated December 2022, January 2023, and February 2023 be received and filed. All those in favor? Any opposed? Matter carries. Further motions, orders, and resolutions? Councilor Dominguez?
Councilor Stott.
Thank you, Mr. President. City of Salem, April 13th, 2023. Ordered that the Committee on Ordinances, Licenses, and Legal Affairs, co-posted with the Committee of the Whole, meet to review the City of Salem Code of Ordinances, Chapter 2, Article 4, Division 14, the Affordable Housing Trust Fund Board of Trustees, and Section 2, 1001, composition, and Section 2, 1002, appointments of trustees, terms, and vacancies, to discuss the composition and number of trustees appointed, to determine if this configuration allows the Affordable Housing Trust Fund Board to achieve its goals and purposes. And I move for adoption.
And Councilor Stott move for adoption and the discussion.
Thank you, Mr. President. So I have had this conversation a few times this year. It's my first year serving on the Affordable Housing Trust Fund Board. And I have heard in the past, and now I'm seeing it myself, that it's difficult getting a quorum of this board for the meetings. In further research, I found that the City of Salem is basically the only city in the state that has 12 members on their Affordable Housing Trust Fund Board. That's just a really high number. Also, there were not, I didn't research every single municipality, but it's not common to have the number of counselors that we have on the board. So my proposal is to remove the elected officials from the board, as well as we have empty seats that are not full and have been having a hard time to get full. So we can reduce that count in various ways. So I have ideas of how that count can be reduced, but I want to put that matter into committee for discussion to see how everyone else feels about it. And also to have, we've had our Affordable Housing Trust Fund Board for a while. So I think it's a good time to have a check and to kind of take a fresh look at it, see who's the terms, the makeup of the body, and just have that conversation out in public, because I've kind of been having it with various people. So I want to make sure that that's a matter out in public. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor? Any opposed? Matter carries.
Thank you. Further motions, orders, and resolutions. Councilor Cohen.
Thank you, President Stott. Ordered that the corner of Cabot and Gardner Streets be named Pelletier Square after U.S. Army Private Rene P. Pelletier, who was killed in action on May 5th, 1945. I move for adoption.
Councilor Cohen moves for adoption. Under discussion?
Thank you, President Stott. So after induction on September 21st, 1942, Mr. Pelletier trained as an infantryman before attending the United States Parachute School at Fort Benning, Georgia. He went on to be assigned to the relatively new 504 Parachute Regiment that was later attached to the 82nd Airborne Division. On February 3rd, February 1945, during the Battle of the Bulge around the town of Bastogne, Private Pelletier was killed in action 2 months before victory in Europe, VD-Day, on May 5th, 1945. Private Pelletier is interred at Henry Chappell American Cemetery in Hamburg, Belgium, and should be a great addition to our neighborhood. Thank you.
Excuse me. Any further discussion? On the motion that we adopt that the corner of Cabot and Gardner Streets be named Pelletier Square after U.S. Army Private Rene P. Pelletier. All those in favor? All those opposed? Matter is adopted. Further motions, orders, and resolutions. Councilor Cohen?
Thanks again, Council President Stott. In the year 2023, an ordinance relative to traffic be ordained by the City Council of the City of Salem as follows. Section 1, Section 50A of Article 5 be amended by repealing the following. Hazel Street handicap parking zones in front of number 30 for a distance of 20 feet, handicap parking zone. Section 250B of Article 5 be amended by repealing the following. Hazel Street handicap zones, limited time in front of 20A, handicap parking tow zone. Hazel Street handicap zones, limited time in front of number 38 for a distance of 20 feet. Section 3, Section 75 of Article 5A be amended by repealing the following. Hazel Street parking prohibitions, towing zone, residence sticker, Zone E, color orange, even side between Laurel Street and Holly Street, and asserting the following. Hazel Street parking prohibitions, towing zone, residence sticker, Zone E, color orange, westerly side beginning at the intersection with Ocean Ave and continuing to the intersection with Holly Street. Section 4, this ordinance shall take effect as provided by city charter. I move adoption for first passage.
Counselor Cohen moves for adoption for first passage. Under discussion.
Oh, thank you, President Stott. So this process started last year when Councilor Presnewski and I met with Lieutenant Tecker and Director Kucharski at Hazel Court. Since then, I've interacted with several residents, as one side of the street is almost all multifamily units with very few driveways and no parking on that side. And the other side, believe it or not, is only resident parking for like 15 spots and the rest is not. And unfortunately, most of the residents on that street, and there's no guarantee, obviously, if you have a resident parking sticker that you get a spot, have to park Canal Street or Lafayette Street, and it's really difficult. So I want to commend the excellent work by Director Kucharski and his department, Christina Hodge in particular, for developing a survey, which we all reviewed, sent out, and 100% of the replies, which was a significant percentage, was positive. And I just want to say that this is going to be great. People are already happy that this is submitted, and teamwork makes the dream work. I particularly want to thank Director Kucharski for his diligence on this and his staff on this. I think it's terrific, and I know Councilor Presnewski and I spent a little bit of time down there. It's just really awkward, and this will make, for a more productive street parking.
Thank you. Any further discussion? On the motion for adoption for first passage, all those in favor? All those opposed? Matter carries. Further motions, orders, and resolutions. Councillor Watson-Felt.
Thank you, President Stott. In the year 2023, an ordinance to amend an ordinance relative to traffic. Be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Salem as follows. Section 1, Chapter 42, Section 50B, Handicap Zone Limited Time, is hereby amended by adding the following. Washington Square East in front of number 70 Washington Square East, running in a southerly direction for 20 feet. Handicap parking limited time tow zone. Section 2, this ordinance shall take effect as provided by city charter. And I move that this be adopted for first passage.
Councillor Watson-Felt moves that this be adopted for first passage. Under discussion?
No discussion.
Great. Any further discussion? All those in favor for adoption for first passage? Any opposed? Matter carries. Any further? Councillor Watson-Felt.
Thank you, President Stott. I do have a late file tonight.
Okay.
An ordinance, ordered in City Council chambers on the 13th of April, 2023, that the acting mayor produce and deliver to City Council a list of open projects and requests in the City of Salem with Massachusetts Department of Transportation and delivered by the 11th of May, 2023. Examples of this can include requested speed limit changes, requested lighting and signage changes on MassDOT roads, as well as unfinished open projects that are improvement plans.
Thank you. This is a late file, so no discussion. The motion to request data for
the open projects and requests in the City of Salem with Massachusetts Department of Transportation, delivered by the 11th of May, 2023.
Okay. All those in favor? Any opposed? Matter carries. Committee reports. Councillor McLean.
Thank you, Council President. City of Salem and City Council, April 13th, 2023. I'm offering the following report for the Committee on Administration and Finance, co-posted with the Committee of the Whole, to whom was referred the matter of reviewing the compensation of the mayor. We have considered said matter and would recommend setting the mayor's salary at $150,000, which is the same as the current salary. And I will move for acceptance of the report.
On the motion to accept the report, all those in favor? Any opposed? Report is accepted. On adoption of the recommendation, under discussion.
Thank you. We had this discussion just earlier this evening. We were able to review a salary survey that was provided to us by the Human Resources Department. During the course of our conversation, a number of important points were raised. Almost all of us felt that the compensation was fair in regards to how it compared to other municipalities, though there was a note that it may not be the most competitive salary point for attracting CEO level talent when compared to the private sector, but we are operating in a municipal fashion, and there was also some discussion around the importance of instituting incremental increases for cost of living for the mayor's salary versus frequent reviews, sometimes resulting in larger jumps in salary because maybe no action was taken in between. But at this time, the committee felt that given the uncertainty for the people, for the general population in Salem, with the special election going on and the relative competitiveness of the salary point right now relative to other municipalities, we were comfortable level funding this salary.
Any further discussion? On adoption of the recommendation, which is keeping the mayor's salary as is, all those in favor? Any opposed? Matter carries. Further committee reports, Councilor Morsillo.
Thank you, President. City of Salem and City Council, April 13th, 2023. Committee on Ordinances, Licenses, and Legal Affairs, to whom was referred the matter of granting of certain licenses, tag days, Veterans Council, May 26th through the 29th, July 1st through the 4th, and November 10th through the 12th, has considered said matter and would recommend that it be granted.
On acceptance of the report, all those in favor? Any opposed? On adoption of the recommendation, under discussion?
No discussion.
On adoption of the recommendation, all those in favor? Any opposed? Matter carries. Further committee reports, Councilor Morsillo.
Thank you, President. City of Salem and City Council, April 13th, 2023. Committee on Ordinances, Licenses, and Legal Affairs, to whom was referred the matter of ordinance amending ordinance relative to traffic, Chapter 42, Sections 51, 51B, 74, and 75, Federal Street, has considered said matter and would recommend adopted as amended for first passage.
On acceptance of the report, all those in favor? Any opposed? On adoption of the recommendation, under discussion?
Thank you, President. So we had a really good meeting about this, and I want to again state that it was sent to committee because the Ward 2 councilor was not at the meeting, and this was a little bit more complicated, and there were requests for amendments, and I wanted to make sure that she was able to go to the meeting to discuss what her constituents needed and to understand any concerns that came out of it. So the amendment that we are recommending is removing Zone C, color green, number 27 North Street, to be included to obtain resident sticker parking permits. Only one permit to be issued per dwelling unit as defined in Section 10 of the city's zoning ordinance, and no visitor passes shall be issued. And so the recommendation was to strike that. And that was most of the complaints from those who attended the meeting and from emails that we received. Again, this was resident parking set up for Federal Street, and there is an overwhelming need for that parking, that on-street parking. And I will now defer to the Ward 2 councilor, who probably has more to say.
Councilor Watson-Felt.
Thank you, President Stott. Councilor Morsillo covered just about all of the bases. Just for the public's awareness about the complaints related to the 27 North Street property, in addition to there being a great a high stress need and demand for the residents that are already reside in the Federal Street, on Federal Street, especially right in that concentrated area that we're converting. There is some history to the conversion of 27 North Street, which includes not allowing that property to be eligible for resident parking when two additional units were put in and it was converted to 100% residential because it was deemed by whichever governing body it was. I believe it was the ZBA, right? Yeah, thank you for that. The ZBA at the time in 2018 that there was plentiful parking enough downtown to support the two additional units. There are a lot of requests. Maybe I shouldn't say a lot. There are a number of requests in Ward 2 from ineligible resident locations for residents now asking for resident parking, and they are increasing as we get busier, I think, as a downtown. And I felt personally that it was a really dangerous precedent to set, that it was a really slippery slope. And unfortunately, in this case, it does mean that there will still be some stress on those two units. The property itself does have off-street parking for about 4 cars, so it's not also the entirety of the building. But with equal and fair government being what it is, we would have to allow passes for all of those units, and I think it just was enough of a feeling of bait and switch on behalf of the residents that had concerns that we opted to remove it. So if there are concerns out there, please feel free to contact me about it. I'm happy to take it offline and discuss it further for those listening at home. But I will say that I have a feeling we need to have a much larger conversation around this issue, specifically in our downtown district. I'm personally advocating for the Traffic and Parking Department to look at our downtown parking zone, specifically Zone C, and we need to address it. There's a number of issues there, and these conversations are ongoing with the department, and I appreciate all of their incredible efforts and their collaboration, partnership. That's all I got. Thanks.
Thank you. Any further discussion? So the committee report included striking from the amendment, Zone C colors is green, number 27 North Street to be included.
That is the amendment.
That's the amendment is striking that. Yeah. Any further discussion? On acceptance of the report, all those in favor? Any opposed? Matter carries.
Did you intend to also ask for
As amended?
the recommendation as amended? Okay. Oh, you said report again. Do we need to take another vote?
No.
Okay, good. Just good.
I don't think so. Further committee reports. Councilor Marcillo.
Thank you, President. City of Salem and City Council, April 13th, 2023. Committee on Ordinances, Licenses, and Legal Affairs, to whom was referred the matter of ordinance amending ordinance relative to traffic, Section 42, Sections 50A, 51, 56, 74, and 75, Federal Street, has considered said matter and would recommend adoption for first passage.
On acceptance of the report, all those in favor? Any opposed? On adoption of the recommendation?
Thank you, President. This was at the same meeting. This is the section of Federal Street that goes from Washington Street to North Street. And there's a whole lot of different types of parking that's allowed there because this is where the courthouse is. And so, again, this was sent together with the other one because the counselor was not at the meeting, and I wanted to make sure that any residents in that area that had questions were able to get them answered by the ward counselor.
Any further discussion? On adoption of the recommendation, all those in favor? Any opposed? Matter carries. Communications from city officials.
With the following orders submitted by the city clerk relative to the election order for the special election to be held on May 16th, 2023.
Councilor Dominguez.
Thank you, President Stott. City of Salem, April 13, 2023. City Council order that the meetings of the qualified voters of the City of Salem be held in the several voting precincts in the city at the polling places designated hereinafter on Tuesday, May 16, 2023, for the purpose of casting vote in the city special final election for the election of candidate for the following office. Reading in Spanish too. Ordenado que las reuniones de los votantes calificados de la ciudad de Salem se lleven a cabo en los diversos precintos electorales de la ciudad en los lugares de votación designados a continuación el martes 16 de mayo del 2023 con el propósito de emitir votos en las elecciones finales especial de la ciudad para la elección de candidato para el siguiente cargo. Mayor, to fill vacancies due to the resignation of Mayor Kim Driscoll. Alcalde, para llenar la vacante debido a la renuncia de la alcaldesa Kimberly Driscoll. And be it further ordered that the following places be and hereby are designated as polling places for said meetings. Y se ordena, además, que los siguientes lugares sean, y por la presente sean designados como lugares de votación para dichas reuniones. Ward 1, Distrito 1, Bentley Academy Gymnasium, 25th Memorial Drive. Recinto 1, Gimnasio Escuela Bentley Academy, 25 Memorial Drive. Precinto 2, Community Room, Precinct 2, Community Room, 135 Lafayette Street. Precinto 2, Sala Comunitaria 135 Lafayette Street. Precinct 1 and 2, Community Life Center, 401 Bridge Street. Recinto 1 y 2, Centro de Vida Comunitaria, 401 Bridge Street. Precinto 1 y 2 de Ward 3, Salem High School Auditorium, 77 Wilson Street. Precinto 1 y 2, Auditorio Salem High School, 77 Wilson Street. Ward 4, Distrito 4, Precinto 1 y 2, Witchcraft High School Gymnasium, 1 Federal Street. Precinto 1 y 2, Gimnasio Escuela Witchcraft Height, 1 de la Federal Street. Ward 5, Distrito 5, Precinto 1 y 2, Charterstone School Auditorium, 211 Lafayette Street. Precinto 1 y 2, Auditorio, Escuela Charterstone, 211 Lafayette Street. Ward 6, Distrito 6, Precinct 1 and 2, Bates School Gymnasium, 53 Liberty Hill Avenue. Recinto 1 y 2, Gimnasio, Escuela Bates School, 53 Liberty Hill Avenue. Ward 7, Distrito 7, Precinct 1, 2 and 2, Salem State Enterprise Center, 121 Loring Avenue. Recinto 1 y 2, Salem State Enterprise Center, 121 Loring Avenue. And be it further ordered that the polls at said meetings be open at 7 a.m. and close at 8 p.m. and that the city clerk be instructed to post this notice as required by law. Y se ordena además que las urnas en dichas reuniones se abran a las 7 a.m. y se cierren a las 8 p.m. y que se instruya a la secretaria de la ciudad que aplique este aviso como lo exige la ley. And I move for adoption.
Thank you, Councilor Dominguez. Councilor Dominguez moves for adoption. Under discussion?
Well, as we know, we're going to have a special election. This is not coming to us. We have to make sure that everybody come and vote. As being stated, City Clerk made the order, presented the order in front of us for everybody to be noticed that this date, May 16, we encourage everybody to come and vote. Thank you.
Every vote counts. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion? Any opposed? Matter carries. Further communications from city officials.
We have the following order that was submitted by the city solicitor relative to the primary and secondary methods of public meetings for the city council and their standing subcommittees.
Counselor Marcillo?
Thank you, President. Ordered, notwithstanding Chapter 2 of the Massachusetts Act of 2023, allowing public bodies to continue holding public meetings remotely until March 31st, 2025, the City Council and its standing committees shall meet in person. In person shall be the primary method of public access to such meetings. A secondary method of public access may be provided if technologically feasible. Through Salem Access Television and/or remotely through technological means such as Zoom. A quorum of members must be present in person unless a meeting is posted noting that the meeting will be held as a hybrid meeting, meaning both in person and remotely, and enabling a quorum to include members present in City Council chambers and remotely. A hybrid meeting may only be held if members of the public can observe and listen to the meeting, or if it is a public hearing, they are able to provide public comment remotely. All meeting notices shall indicate clearly whether or not the primary method of public access is in person with a secondary public access via remote participation, or hybrid, where the in-person and remote access must both be available. If applicable, the meeting notice shall indicate how members of the public may access the meeting remotely, including the relevant links, URLs, access codes, PINs, meeting ID numbers, or telephone numbers. This order supersedes the remote participation policy adopted by the City Council on March 24th, 2022. And I move that this be referred to the Committee of the Whole.
Counselor Marcillo moves that this be referred to the Committee of the Whole. Under discussion?
Thank you, President. So the city solicitor was asked to come up with a new policy as a result of a recent meeting of one of our subcommittees. And unfortunately, at that meeting, we had a problem with the Zoom link. We continued the meeting, but there was questions about whether we should have continued it. So the pandemic was responsible for so much heartbreak and anxiety, but the silver lining was the quick acceptance of technology to allow us to continue to meet while remaining physically distanced and safe. It also increased the number of constituents who are now able to attend our meetings through hybrid means. As a body, we have clearly stated our intentions and will to continue our meetings in a remote manner. But we are human, and we are at the mercy of the technology we rely on. Our rules for conducting meetings have and will continue to be tweaked to address the reality of the bounds of the technology we use. I'm requesting that this motion go to the Committee of the Whole for further discussion and to smooth out the language where appropriate.
Any further discussion? I will note that I will make sure that the city solicitor can attend this meeting, so we will work with scheduling again. On the motion to refer the matter to the Committee of the Whole, all those in favor? Any opposed? Matter carries. Further communications from city officials.
We have the following order that was submitted by the city solicitor relative to Mass General Law, Chapter 260A, Section 20B.
Councilor Marcillo?
Thank you, President. Ordered in acceptance with Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 268A, Section 20B, the City Council hereby declares that James Rogers has met the requirements for exemption as set forth in this section and may be retained as an arts and science instructor by the Park, Recreation, and Community Services Department not to exceed 500 hours in this calendar year, and I move for adoption.
Councilor Marcillo moves for adoption. Under discussion?
Thank you, President. Mr. Rogers is a teacher at the Bentley School and would also like to teach at the Parks and Rec Department. And so this is the appropriate disclosure form that he needed to do, and we need to vote on it now.
Any further discussion? All those in favor of motion for adoption? Any opposed? Matter carries. Further communications from city officials.
The following order was submitted by the city solicitor relative to outdoor dining.
Councilor Varela.
Thank you, President Stott. Ordered that the city solicitor work with the health agent, building commissioner, and executive director of the Salem Redevelopment Authority or their designees to draft an amendment to the city ordinance relative to outdoor dining cafe permits, to allow and regulate the use of public ways, sidewalks, and parking spaces for restaurants to build outdoor dining areas and to establish limitations and procedures for such use commencing in 2024. The solicitor shall submit a draft to City Council no later than May 8th, 2023. And I would move for adoption.
Councilor Verla moves for adoption. Under discussion?
Thank you, President Stott. Many entities from our food service community would like to establish the right to patios on public ways long-term. As we all know, the state did allow for an additional 1 year without going through the ABCC, so we're covered for 2023. However, for 2024, it's going to be another conversation. After having a discussion with our city solicitor about this, this is a little more complicated than just proposing an ordinance allowing outdoor dining. Right now, there's a couple different issues we need to iron out. One is that the urban renewal area is in the jurisdiction of the SRA, and anything outside that would have be authorized by City Council. So with that, a lot of our restaurants find the urgency to introduce something before mid-May. And I agree. I do believe that personally, outdoor dining has been overwhelmingly positive for our food service establishments, and that we should continue to do this. It also creates a little more of a walkability for our city as well. So with that, I think this is time well spent. And another thing I'd like to do is propose that this go to City Council no later than April 24th. I did have a discussion with our city solicitor, who is fine with that timeline. So with that, thank you.
So you're moving to amend the order. Instead of ending at May 8th, it would be April 24th, 2023?
Correct.
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Marcillo. Any further discussion? Councilor Watson-Felt?
Thank you, President Stott. The only additional comment I'll make is just with regards to the timing on this for those in the public who think that this is really early on in the process to have something that we're talking about for 2024. I want to share that I've also had a number of conversations on this topic with some downtown restaurant owners, and I think that what is happening behind the scenes, right, is a series of plan reviews, design reviews, lots of hoops we have to jump through. There's state is involved with things like plumbing and building codes, and so this takes a long time. And as we all know, in our mutual way, I think this body supports small business. We need to give folks that time in order to plan financially as well and to engage the right designers. So I'm really excited to see that this timeline has been expedited, and I'm happy to support the amendment tonight. Thanks.
Any further discussion? On the motion for the order for adoption as amended, all those in favor? Any opposed? Matter carries. Petitions.
We have a petition from National Grid to install conduits on Highland Ave.
That's the 27th, right? Hearing ordered for April 27th, 2023. Further petitions.
We have a request from the Boys and Girls Club to hold the Wild Turkey 5-mile road race and use the city streets on November 23rd, 2023.
Councilor Presnowski.
Thank you. I move that this order be granted.
Councilor Presnowski moves that this be granted. Under discussion.
Thank you. This is a traditional race that's been held in Salem for many, many years for the Boys and Girls Club. It's wildly popular. It's probably the most attended by athletes in this area, and it is run very professionally, very well done. I think everybody's looking forward to working off their turkey meal by running a long race first. So I move that we do this again and it be granted.
Any further discussion? Councilor Dominguez.
Thank you, President Stark. I had to agree with good Councilor at large. This is one of the most attended, I think, event during the Thanksgiving occasion that everybody participate. I happen to be volunteering for almost 3 or 4 years, and I have a great time, and I see so many people enjoying. Many people coming from out of town, but many local people participate. So I'm totally agree. This is a great event for the great city of Salem. Thanks.
Any further discussion? Anybody committing to run this year? Councilor Hopper. On the motion that this be granted, all those in favor? Any opposed? Matter carries. Further petitions.
We have a request from the Wicked Running Club to hold Miles Over the Moon Road race and use the city streets on July 21st, 2023.
Councilor Presnewski.
I move that this also be granted.
Councilor Presnewski moves that this be granted. Under discussion.
Again, the Wicked Running Club has run various races in this city, and they've done so with great responsibility and professionalism. This one here is going to, I believe this year has a few changes, and I just would hope that the people that are impacted by the route are all notified in their separate wards. But I move that this be granted. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? On the motion that this be granted, all those in favor? Any opposed? Matter carries. Further petitions.
We have the following list of license applications for public guides, taxi operators, and taxi cab limos.
Councilor Marcillo.
Thank you, President. I move that these be granted.
Councilor Marcillo moves that this be granted. Any discussion?
No discussion.
All those in favor? Any opposed? Matter carries. Further petitions.
We have the following license for a taxi operator.
Councilor Marcillo.
Thank you, President. I move that this be denied.
Councilor Marcillo moves that this be denied. Any discussion?
No discussion.
On the motion to deny, all those in favor? Any opposed? Matter carries. Further petitions.
We have the following 2 requests for a taxi operator hearing on the denial of their taxi operator license.
Councilor Marcillo.
Thank you, President. I move that these be referred to the Committee on Ordinances, Licenses, and Legal Affairs, and an executive session may be held.
Councilor Marcillo moves that this be referred to the Committee on Ordinances, Licenses, and Legal Affairs, and executive session may be held. All those in favor? Any opposed? Matter carries. Further petitions.
We have the following 2 tag day license applications.
Councilor Marcillo.
Thank you, President. I move that these be referred to the Committee on Ordinances, Licenses, and Legal Affairs.
On the motion to refer these to the Committee on Ordinances, Licenses, and Legal Affairs, all those in favor? Any opposed? Matter carries. Further petitions.
We have the following 5 claims.
Councilor Marcillo.
Thank you, President. I move that these be referred to the Committee on Ordinances, Licenses, and Legal Affairs.
On the motion to move these to the Committee on Ordinances, Licenses, and Legal Affairs, all those in favor? Any opposed? Matter carries. Further petitions.
We have the following 4 drain layer contract operator licenses.
Councilor Marcillo.
Thank you, President. I move that these be granted.
On the motion that these be granted, any discussion?
No discussion.
On the motion that these be granted, all those in favor? Any opposed? Matter carries. Further petitions.
We have 1 drain layer bond.
Councilor Marcillo.
Thank you, President. I move that this be referred to the Committee on Ordinances, Licenses, and Legal Affairs and returned approved.
Councilor Marcillo moves that this be referred to the Committee on Ordinances, Licenses, and Legal Affairs and returned approved. All those in favor? Any opposed? Matter carries. Unfinished business.
We have a second passage of a traffic ordinance amending a handicap parking repeal on Summer Street.
Councilor Watson-Felt.
Thank you, President Stott. In the year 2023, an ordinance to amend an ordinance relative to traffic, be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Salem as follows. Section 1, Chapter 42, Section 50B, what did you say?
No, sorry.
Okay. Handicap zone limited time is hereby amended by repealing the following. Repeal Summer Street easterly side beginning 55 feet north of Endicott Street and running in a northerly direction for 20 feet. Handicap parking time zone, a limited time tow zone. Section 2, this ordinance shall take effect as provided by city charter. And I move for adoption for second and final passage.
Councilor Watson-Felt moves for adoption for second and final passage. Any discussion?
No further discussion.
On the motion for adoption for second and final passage, all those in favor? Any opposed? Matter carries. Further unfinished business.
We have a second passage of a traffic ordinance amending handicap parking on Summer Street.
Counselor Watson-Felt.
Thank you, Council President. Counselor Marcelo was just advising I don't have to read the whole thing the second time. Is
No,
that
you
true?
do not.
Okay. Should I waive, do I need to waive the reading or
Nope.
can I? All right,
You
good.
can just
all
go
right.
right to the motion.
All right, motion, move to adopt for second and final passage. Now I'm all scrambled.
Counselor Watson-Felt moves for adoption for second and final passage. Any discussion?
Not from me, thanks.
On the motion for adoption for second and final passage, all those in favor? Any opposed? Matter carries. Further unfinished business.
We have a second passage of a traffic ordinance to repeal and replace parking prohibited on certain streets relative to Broad Street.
Counselor Watson-Felt.
Thank you. I move for adoption of second and final passage.
Counselor Watson-Felt moves for adoption for second and final passage. Any discussion?
Nope.
On the motion for adoption and second and final passage, all those in favor? Any opposed? Matter carries. Further unfinished business.
We have a second passage of a traffic ordinance amending Chapter 42, Sections 51B, 56, and 75 relative to Essex Street.
Counselor Watson-Felt.
Thank you. I move that this be adopted for second and final passage.
Counselor Watson-Felt moves for adoption for second and final passage. Under discussion?
Nope.
On the motion for adoption for second and final passage, all those in favor? Any opposed? Matter carries. Further unfinished business.
We have a second passage of a traffic ordinance amending Chapter 42, Sections 51B, 57A, and 75 relative to Lafayette Street and Ocean Ave.
Counselor Cohen.
Thank you, President Stott. As this will remedy all traffic and parking issues in the city, I move for adoption for second and final passage and congratulate everyone on Ocean Ave.
Counselor Cohen moves for adoption for second and final passage. Any further discussion? On the motion for adoption for second and final passage, all those in favor? Any opposed? Matter carries. Further unfinished business.
We have a second passage of a traffic ordinance amending handicap parking on Albion Street.
Counselor McLean.
Thank you, Council President. I move for adoption for second and final passage.
Counselor McLean moves for adoption for second and final passage. Any discussion?
No discussion.
On the motion for adoption for second and final passage, all those in favor? Any opposed? Matter carries. Further unfinished business.
We have the second reading of the City Council Rules and Orders relative to 26C, Rules for Testimony during Public Testimony portion of a regular meeting.
Counselor Marcillo.
Thank you, President. I move for adoption for second passage by roll call vote.
Counselor Marcillo moves for adoption for second passage by roll call vote. Any discussion?
Only that I do anticipate further tweaks and clarifications of this rule as municipalities understand the full scope of this legal decision.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Council Watson-Felt?
Yes.
Council Varela?
Yes.
Council Prosnewski?
Yes.
Council Marcillo?
Yes.
Council Merkel?
Yes.
Council McLean?
Yes, begrudgingly. I said yes, begrudgingly.
Council Hapworth?
Yes.
Council Dominguez?
Yes.
Council Cohen? And Council Stott?
Yes. Thank you. On the second reading of the City Council Rules and Orders relative to 26C, Rules for Testimony during Public Testimony portion of our regular meeting, 10 members voting, 10 in the affirmative, matter carries. Counselor Marcillo?
Thank you, President. Point of personal privilege.
So granted.
Thank you. This actually is an interesting bookend to this meeting with the way we started. It's been an interesting and difficult couple of weeks, and all of the elected officials in Salem signed a joint letter and a statement of support for those in the LGBTQ plus community. And letters like these are important. And so, in my opinion, they should be read in a body like this so that it is on the public record and so that people who are watching us either through Zoom or on SATV or watch us later can hear kind of the heartfelt statement that's being put forth by all of the elected officials in Salem. And I would like to let the good Councilor Dominguez start.
Thank you. Declaración conjunta de apoyo a la comunidad LGBTQ. Nosotros, los abajo firmantes, líderes de la comunidad de Salem, Massachusetts, queremos que nuestros jóvenes y adultos LGBTQ+, sepan que estamos con todos ustedes. Somos conscientes del creciente aumento de la violencia y la legislación anti-LGBTQ+, y queremos que sepan que no están solos. Creemos que todo el mundo merece vivir su vida con autenticidad y sin miedo a la discriminación o a la violencia. Sabemos que los crecientes acontecimientos en nuestra comunidad y fuera de ella pueden haberte hecho sentir miedo y ansiedad. Sin embargo, queremos asegurarles que no nos quedaremos de brazos cruzados. Queremos dar las gracias al Departamento de la Policía de Salem por su rápida y minuciosa actuación la semana pasada en relación con los delitos de odio LGBTQ+ aquí en Salem. Reconocemos que la comunidad LGBTQ+ es una parte esencial de nuestra comunidad diversa y vibrante en Salem. Queremos asegurarnos de que se sientan seguros, apoyados y bienvenidos en nuestras escuelas y en nuestra ciudad. Valoramos sus contribuciones a nuestra comunidad y apreciamos las perspectivas y experiencias únicas que aportan. También queremos reconocer la resistencia y la fuerza de su comunidad LGBTQ+, a pesar de los retos y obstáculos a los que se han enfrentado. Siguen defendiendo sus derechos y abogando por la igualdad. Nos inspiran su valentía y determinación y nos comprometemos a solidarizarnos con ustedes. Sabemos que las palabras por sí solas no son suficientes para abordar los problemas sistemáticos que conducen a la discriminación y a la violencia contra la comunidad LGBTQ+. Por eso, nos comprometemos a emprender acciones concretas para promover la igualdad y la inclusión en nuestra comunidad. Trabajaremos sin descanso para garantizar que todos los miembros de nuestra comunidad son tratados con respeto y dignidad, independientemente de su orientación sexual, identidad de género o expresión. Te instamos a que busques apoyo si lo necesitan. Hay muchos recursos disponibles en nuestra comunidad. Como líderes de la comunidad, estamos con Nagley y con todos los miembros de nuestra comunidad en contra de todas las formas de intolerancia, discriminación, intimidación y acoso. Para terminar, que queremos reiterar nuestro compromiso de promover la igualdad, la inclusión y la diversidad en nuestra comunidad. Estamos con ustedes y seguiremos trabajando por una sociedad más justa y equitativa para todos. Atentamente, congresista Seth Moulton, representante de los Estados Unidos por el 6º Distrito del Congreso de Massachusetts. John Lovely, senador estatal de Massachusetts del Distrito 2, Essex County. Manny Cruz, representante estatal del 7º Distrito de Salem y vicepresidente del Comité Escolar. Robert McCarthy, alcalde en funciones, presidente del Comité Escolar. Dr. Steven Syke, Jr., superintendente de escuelas. Amanda Campbell, miembro del Comité Escolar. Beth N. Cornell, miembro del Comité Escolar. Jeff Cohen, concejal del Salem, Distrito 5. Domingo Domínguez, concejal de la ciudad de Salem general. Ty Harper, concejal de la ciudad de Salem general. Mary Manning, miembro del Comité Escolar. Les McLean, concejal de la ciudad de Salem, Distrito 4. Alice Merkel, concejal de la ciudad de Salem general. Patty Morcillo, concejal de Salem, Distrito 3. Dr. Christine Pangelo, miembro del Comité Escolar. Conrad Pronowski, concejal de la ciudad de Salem en general. Meg Stott, concejal de la ciudad de Salem, Distrito 6, presidente del Consejo. Andy Rivera, concejal de Salem, Distrito 7. Caroline Watson Feo, concejal de Salem, Distrito 2.
Thank you, Counselor.
We, the undersigned community leaders of Salem, Massachusetts, want our LGBTQ plus youth and adults to know that we stand with you. Sorry. We are aware of the recent uptick in violence and anti-LGBTQ plus legislation, and we want you to know that you are not alone. We believe that everyone deserves to live their life authentically and without fear of discrimination or violence. We know that the recent events in our community and beyond may have left you feeling scared and anxious. However, we want to assure you that we will not stand idly by. We want to thank the Salem Police Department for their swift and thorough action this past week regarding LGBTQ plus hate crimes here in Salem. We recognize that the LGBTQ plus community is an essential part of our diverse and vibrant community in Salem. We want to ensure that you feel safe, supported, and welcomed in our schools and in our city. We value your contributions to our community and appreciate the unique perspectives and experiences that you bring. We also want to acknowledge the resilience and strength of the LGBTQ plus community. Despite the challenges and obstacles that you have faced, you continue to stand up for your rights and advocate for equality. We are inspired by your courage and determination and are committed to standing with you in solidarity. We know that words alone may not be enough to address the systemic issues that lead to discrimination and violence against the LGBTQ plus community. That is why we are committed to taking concrete actions to promote equality and inclusion in our community. We will work tirelessly to ensure that all members of our community are treated with respect and dignity, regardless of their sexual orientation, gender, identity, or expression. We urge you to reach out for support if you need it. There are many resources available in our community. As community leaders, we stand with NAGLI and with all our community members against all forms of bigotry, discrimination, bullying, and harassment. In closing, we want to reiterate our commitment to promoting equality, inclusion, and diversity in our community. We stand with you and will continue to work towards a more just and equitable society for all. Sincerely, Congressman Seth Moulton, U.S. Representative for Massachusetts 6th Congressional District. Joan Lovely, Mass. State Senator 2nd Essex. Manny Cruz, State Representative 7th Essex and Vice Chair of Salem School Committee. Robert McCarthy, Acting Mayor, Chair of the School Committee. Dr. Stephen Zreich Jr., Superintendent of Schools. Amanda Campbell, School Committee Member. Beth Ann Cornell, School Committee Member. Jeff Cohen, Salem City Councilor, Ward 5. Domingo Dominguez, Salem City Councilor at Large. Ty Hapworth, Salem City Councilor at Large. Mary Manning, School Committee Member. Lev McLean, Salem City Councilor, Ward 4. Alice Merkel, Salem City Councilor at Large. Patty Marcillo, Salem City Councilor, Ward 3. Dr. Kristen Pangalo, School Committee Member. Conrad Presnewski, Salem City Councilor at Large. Meg Stott, Salem City Councilor, Ward 6 and Council President. Andy Varela, Salem City Councilor, Ward 7. And myself, Caroline Watson-Felt, Salem City Councilor, Ward 2.
Thank you, President, and I apologize to my fellow counselor. I gave her no warning on that. Just like at the beginning of the meeting, I gave her no warning. But this, to me, is what makes Salem great. When things like this happen, without even a pause, everyone signs on to this letter in support. And I know that this community not just gives lip service to the support, but we exemplify it. I thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Cohen?
Thank you, President Starr. I want to just follow up on what Councilor Marcillo said, and thank you to the councilors who read the statement. There's a reason that North Shore Pride has their festival here every year. NAGLI is amazing in the way people feel safe in the space, and we have Project Out, which is a nonprofit that helps trans, non-binary people be their authentic selves. The sad thing about hate crimes and bias crimes is the people affected will probably always have what affected them for the rest of their lives. And so it's so important that we have organizations and people on the street that really stand up for them. And I'm very proud of this body and the city for how we try to make this place a welcoming community for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the reading. Thank you for reading it into the record, both of you, and for bringing that up. Yes. I also appreciate everyone signing on to this so quickly without thought. To me, that last sentence is what spoke to me as a body here, that we stand with you all and we will continue to work towards a more just and equitable society. That is why we are here. So thank you. Anything else? Councilor Dominguez.
Thank you, Councilor Stark. With that saying, I want to make a motion to adjourn.
Councilor Dominguez moves to adjourn. All those in favor? Any opposed? Matter carries. Thank you.